My name is Paul Ray. Ordinarily, I teach history at Hillsdale College in Hillsdale, Michigan in the United States. This week, however, I'm in Israel, in Jerusalem, visiting Shalem College, where I have been giving a seminar and where I've given a lecture. My subject today is Xenophanes, Xenophanes of Colophon, a little tiny Greek town that existed on the coast of Asia Minor, from which Xenophanes was driven when the Persians came in 546 BC and conquered that particular part of the world. Xenophanes was the heir to Thales and Anaximander and Anaximenes of Miletus, the first Ionian philosophers. And he's of particular interest because Aristotle tells us these Ionian philosophers, these physiologioi, were monotheists. And Xenophanes is the first of these from whom we have a sufficient number of fragments to get some sense of what this monotheism was like. Here's what he says. One God there is, greatest among gods and men, in no way like mortal creatures, either in bodily form or in the thought of his mind. The whole of him sees, the whole of him thinks, the whole of him hears. He always stays motionless in the same place. It is not fitting that he should move about this way, now that. Now, what's especially interesting about this God is he does not do that which is not fitting. There is a standard to which he conforms. That standard is reason. He is the God of the philosophers, not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but in certain ways similar to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So the first thing that's important about Xenophanes is he gives us a feel for the God of the philosophers and for the monotheism that underpins Greek philosophy. The second thing that's important about Xenophanes, connected with the first, is that he discovers ethnocentricity. Here's what he has to say about the gods. Mortal men imagine that gods are begotten and that they have dress and speech and shape. If oxen or horses or lions had hands to draw with and to make works of art with as men do, then horses would draw the forms of gods like horses, oxen like oxen, and they would make their gods' bodies similar to the bodily shapes that they themselves each had. Now, the evidence he has for reaching this conclusion is that the Ethiopians say that their gods are snub-nosed and black-skinned, the Thracians that they are blue-eyed and red-headed. And he dismisses these systems of gods. About the Greek gods, he says, Homer and Hesiod have attributed to the gods everything which brings shame and reproach among men, theft, adultery, and fraud. Now, in saying that, what he's saying is that the Greek gods do not conform to that which is fitting, whereas the true God, the only God, does conform to that which is fitting, because the true God, the only God, embodies reason. He may be reason himself. From the perspective of Xenophanes, human beings can be godlike because they participate in reason. That is to say, at their very best, and at their very best moments, they are quasi-divine. The universe, the cosmos, reflects the rationality of the God that lies behind the universe, and human beings participate in that rationality in understanding the universe and are quasi-divine. Now, something interesting about this is that the first of these philosophers, Thales, to whom Aristotle attributes monotheism as well, is said by Herodotus to be phoinikos, that is to say, to be an Aramaic speaker. This would not be especially interesting were it not that he was also a monotheist. Because, of course, there are another group of Aramaic speakers, the Jews, who are monotheists at the same time. There's something else interesting about this figure, Thales. We are told by Diogenes Laertius that every morning when he got up, he prayed to God and he thanked God that he was born a man, not an animal, a man, not a woman, and a Greek, not a barbarian. There is an Orthodox Jewish prayer, and said by Orthodox Jewish men when they get up in the morning. They pray to God to thank God that they are born men, not animals, men, not women, and Jews, not goys. The similarity between these two prayers is quite striking. We do not know the origins of this Orthodox Jewish prayer, but it may go back very far. And there's an indication in the Christian New Testament that it does. Because St. Paul, who was a Jew and who knew Judaism very well, says, in Christ, there is no man and no woman. In Christ, there is no Greek and no barbarian. And that looks like a response to that Orthodox Jewish prayer. What this suggests, but does not prove, is that Thales of Miletus may have been Jewish in origin, and that the God of the philosophers may be the descendant of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I do not mean to suggest that Thales was a good Jew. Perhaps, like some later Jews, not so observant.